Hello, everyone. Happy Fierce Female Friday. Oh my goodness. As you have all been seeing with all of the chatter on Instagram and Facebook, we have an amazing group of leaders today with a super important conversation. We are on the heels of Equal Pay Day. And let me, before we go any further, remind us that Equal Pay Day is equal pay day for white women. That is the White Women's Day. That is not every woman's day. Asian American and Pacific Islanders Women's Equal Day is March 9th. Let's see, mothers, women who are mothers Equal Pay Day is June 4th. Black Women's Equal Day is August 3rd. Native American Women's Equal Day is September 8th. And oh, this makes me so angry. Latinas Equal Pay Day is October 21st. Okay. This is crazy talk. This is something that we have been talking about for decades, literally decades. Women have been talking about it. And we are here to talk about the number one reason that every expert points to, and that is women don't ask. We don't ask for what we want. We don't ask for what we need, whether that's in life at home or in business. So welcome to the show. Today, we have three amazing leaders from EXIT, and we have all different parts of the country represented. We have Boston in the house, we have Georgia in the house, we have Maryland in the house, and then of course, Seattle over here. We'd love to know where you are tuning in from. So make sure that you drop in the comments where you are watching from today as we go. Now, these three women have all sorts of different backgrounds, right? And so I'm going to have each one of them introduce themselves, starting with you, Miss Tami Bonnell. And then we'll go Tami, Sharon, Tina. And everybody get out your notebooks, get out your pens, maybe 2 pens, because there's going to be so much great information shared today. Without further ado, welcome, Tami. I'm so happy you're here.
I'm so happy to be here. So I think you want me to give you my name and my title and what I do.
Yes,
and
please.
Something about me,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay. So I'm the CEO for EXIT Realty Corp International. I live outside the Boston marketplace, and I have been with this company for roughly 20 years. I started off as a regional owner. The following year, I became vice president. The year after that, I became president over the US, and I've been the CEO since 2012. And it's just, if I had to describe my job in one small swoop, I would say that my job is to literally find talent in people so that I can just literally catch them doing something great and point them 2, 3, 4, 5 degrees in the right direction so that they see something in themselves they didn't see before. And then they become that, and they really grow from that. Probably most people don't know about me, and in fact, this is the first time I'm saying it out loud outside of my household. So how do you like that? I am actually in school nights and weekends when I'm available, so that a lot of people know I'm a martial artist, but roughly 4 years from now, I'll be a master.
Oh, I mean, I'll never forget the first time we had you on stage and we were asking you something like this, and you were like, well, my hands and feet are registered lethal weapons. I remember that. Did you say what I think she just said? Did she just say that? She did. Oh my gosh. So I love that you are, of course, I'm not surprised that you're continuing to sharpen the saw, because that,
you know what, I think that it's because you grow, every facet you grow in your life, you grow in all the other facets by doing that. And so I think that's really important.
So true. I love that. Sharon, how about you? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Sharon Henry, and I live in Atlanta, Georgia. I was born in Jamaica, West Indies, and I grew up in New York City. So I stole this from a friend of mine, and I call myself a Georgia peach with an apple core. And I stole that from my friend Tiffany.
That's great.
I'm soft and fuzzy on the outside, but I'm hard on the inside, like a little apple core. Most people that get to know me, seriously speaking, it's the other way around. Like, I'm really, really soft and fuzzy on the inside. And I am the co-broker and owner for EXIT Realty Quality Solution here in Marietta, Georgia. I have a wonderful other half partner. Her name is Michelle Calloway, which you guys will meet at another day. And what I do around here is I do all the recruiting and the advertising and the agent attraction for our company. Something fun about me, I'm a little crazy, but I love to dance. I absolutely love to dance. I really don't know how to dance very well, so don't, think that we're going to be in Dancing with the Stars or anything. No, but I absolutely love to dance. That's my high. That's my thing.
I love that. So there is an entire squad of dancers inside this community. Last year we had, obviously like the rest of the world, we went virtual for our big conference, Sharon, and Lisa Dunn, who I'm not sure if she's watching live, but I'm sure she'll watch the replay. She, along with a whole group of women, created the dance squad. And we did our event on a platform that allowed us to have avatars that could dance with each other. And so you are in the right room with the right people because we love to shake our thing, whether we're in person or in an avatar form. So welcome. All right, Tina, how about you?
Hi, everyone. Tina Hyatt. I am the owner and associate broker of EXIT Realty in Maryland, Baltimore area, Central Maryland. And I'm also a partner in a title company, Shoreline Title. I've been in the real estate business for about 15 years. I started in commercial real estate and moved over to residential primarily. I have 3 offices and about 95 agents and growing. I am born and raised in Maryland, grew up here, been here my whole life, love to travel, but always come back home. And I'm a through and through Maryland girl. Love my blue crabs, my Old Bay. I'm a Maryland girl. Something fun about me, not business related, personal really. I am very outdoorsy. I've been a vegetarian for about 12 years, but I do love to fish. And I go kayak fishing, and I have a big Jeep with lifted tires, and I like to go off-roading. So I like to have fun outside and get dirty every now and then. So
I love it. Yeah. So fun. Okay. So the connecting of the dots inside this community is Ms. Sabrina Brown, who is also one of the big wranglers of our squads around here, is a Jeep lover. And so there's actually quite a bit of Jeep conversation inside the group. I actually believe Jackie Soto just got a Jeep as well. So we love Jeeps. We love dancing. We love being outside. We are all in this together. We are one, right? We belong to each other, and this is a beautiful start. Okay, so when we sent out the word, so I actually messaged Tami and say, hey, would you be interested in having this conversation? And of course, with skipping a beat, she was like, I'm in. And I said, all right, 2 women who would join us, and boom, here we go. Tina and Sharon. So let's start about sharing stories that highlight the power of you asking for what you want. So Sharon, let's start with you.
Okay. So I've got a little semi-personal, and then I can tell you about business. But for all the ladies that are listening out there, this is a personal situation. My husband and I were dating for about 8 years. We had a son, and he was just playing games. And I decided one day, enough was enough. If we were going to do this family thing together, we had to get it right and make sure that it's legal, and not only in the eyes of, all the official stuff, but in God, right? So I told him, I said, listen, boy, it's time to get married. And this is the day that we're going to do it.
I love it.
Well, that's fine. You're the one that didn't want to get married. Well, now I do. We're going to connect this family, and we're going to get it together. So technically, I told him that we were going to get married, and he was like, fine. He said, what do I need to do? I said, show up, gave him a date and a time.
I love it. Now that is seriously telling somebody what you want.
Yes, ladies. Sometimes you've got, in all seriousness, we've been together now for 28 years. So it worked out, didn't it?
Good.
That's so good. That's so good. I love that. Do you want to share a business story as well?
Oh yeah, it's say so.
Oh yeah.
Firm, right? Our office, it took us about 11 months to build it out. And it just kept on going and going and going. And Michelle said, when are we going to have the grand opening? And I booked the date. Everybody else thought I was crazy. I was like, no, we're having this date. We did not have a CO. We did not have anything. I just went down to the courthouse, met with the chief of the fire department, and had him come over here and made sure that we got our CO. We literally got our CO the day before the grand opening. Because again, men were playing games and I didn't have time for it. They told me, oh, it's going to take about another 30 days. No, it's not. We're having a party tomorrow and I need a CO. And I got it. And now we had a beautiful grand opening within 24 hours of that CO being placed in our door. And whew, took a minute, but we got it done.
Oh my goodness.
Awesome.
All right, Tina, how about you? What's a story that you think of when we're talking about the power of asking for what you want?
Sure. Mine really came to me, it was about 2.5 years ago. And in 2018, I was actually diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. And I'm running a business. I'm a single mom, and my world kind of came to a screeching halt. And when tragedy or terrifying situations like that happen, we tend to, I think most people and women tend to not ask a lot of questions, not ask, and not advocate for ourselves. And so after going through that experience, there was a lot of, I realized from my doctors, there was a lot of almost, I guess I would say maybe bullying or fear factor, a lot of pushing and urgency around decisions, life-altering decisions. And it really was taboo to ask questions or to advocate for yourself and to push for the types of treatments that you wanted, or new treatments, or new protocols. They kind of tend to go with the old standard. And I decided that I was going to ask questions. And I asked a lot of questions from a lot of different people. I interviewed different doctors. I spoke to other women who had gone through it as well. And I really didn't know a lot of people that had gone through it before. I was 41 years old, and I didn't know a lot of people who had been through it before. And through asking, I was able to really build a path for myself and a treatment plan that I felt comfortable with for myself and my family. And then I had to advocate and really push for doctors to agree to work with me. And so out of that experience, it really became my mission to encourage women and to talk about my story and to talk to other women that are going through the same thing, and encourage them to ask questions, ask for what you want, really advocate for yourself. And something that Tami and Steve Morris taught me years ago when I got into EXIT was the power of affirmations. Affirmations is an ask. A lot of people don't think of it that way, but you're asking the universe for what you want. And I am a 150% believer in affirmations and the power of affirmations. So I still, all through breast cancer, through every trial and tribulation, but through the blessings too, I ask for what I want. I show gratitude, and I bring that reality into my life, I think, through the power of affirmations. So.
Oh, that's so good. Thank you so much for sharing that. Michelle Calloway's in the chat room saying, oh my God, Tina, you're my Shiro. Stand up and being bold.
Thank you.
My partner.
Thank you.
I love it. I love it. The power of affirmations, and I love how you wrap them in the ask, right? That's a very practical way to look at something that is spiritual in nature. And I love that. I love looking at it that way. I love listening to you talk about it that way. So thank you so much for sharing that very personal and and deep story, right? I mean, it's a reminder that we need to go out and ask. We need to be our own best advocate. We can do it for other people. Most of us can negotiate and ask the deep questions when it's about someone else. However, when it's pointed back, there is that a bit of fear and trepidation. Tami, how about you? What's your, I can't even imagine what your story's going to be. So I'm ready. What is your asking story?
Well, you know what, I think that it's the whole thing is that, and for everybody that's paying attention to this, when your values and your dreams match and you're in alignment, and you really know what you want, truly know what you want, you have a lot more passion and a lot more courage and incredible self-discipline. Obviously, Tina wanted to get well and be able to take care of her kids, right? And that to me is so important. She wanted to be able to be here and be present. And so she stayed in that present tense. This isn't that exciting of a story, but it's really, I am older than everybody that's on this call. And back then it was literally, I would have people that I worked for ask me if I even had permission to come to work, or what my husband thought of me coming to work. And, you know, just crazy, the questions. So when I started off in sales, because I have 3 children and I wanted to be a mother first, and I wanted to have some sort of work-life balance, I went in and negotiated, and I would tell people, I'll make your fortune, but my children come first. If you can live with that, we'll be able to build a great relationship. But if you can't live with that, this relationship isn't going to last very long. And I worked for some people that I would have a boss that I was making more money than because I was succeeding in that time frame, so they couldn't live with it, or they had to put everybody in a cookie cutter mold. But I knew exactly what I wanted, and so I stuck with it. And it was actually really funny while I was thinking about it, of asking the questions. I remember I was on my way to work and I had to go to a sales meeting, and this was literally a year apart, going to the same place. And they were so frustrated that I brought my kids to school first, you know, so they even were willing to wait. But I did 80% of the production out of 15 people. So, you know, it was the point of, I'll do what I can when I can, but you really do have to understand that this comes first. And my oldest son had all these lizards, and so they eat live crickets. And it was January, and I had a bag of live crickets on the top of my dashboard. And I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. It was so cold last night. They're all dead." And he brought up, really bright kid, brought up all the reasons why their heart rate goes all the way down to dead, and then they come back alive when you warm them back up. And that's what happens to a lot of insects during the wintertime. I knew nothing about it. He said, just turn the heat on a little bit, turn the defroster on a little bit. And all of a sudden they started popping like popcorn on my dashboard, right? They're coming back to life. And I drove through a red light. And I had the 3 kids in the car, and the police officer pulled me over. I'm like, oh my God, now I'm going to be late for this sales meeting again. And I get out of the car, and I'm explaining the cricket story to him and telling him, look, this is serious. They came back to life. And my kids are freaking out. I got away with it and got away without a ticket. He said, just get away from me and get out of here. And so I slid a note under the door and said, I have a great story and I brought donuts. And so I got let into the room. And about a year later, I got pulled over by a state trooper because I was rushing to get to that same sales meeting. And I got pulled over, and the guy pulled me over, and I'm like, oh man, usually I can negotiate pretty good. I have a speed issue. And he pulled me over, and he came to the car, and then he went, oh my God, you're the cricket lady. And I said, are you going to give me a ticket this time? He got promoted into being a state trooper now. He wasn't working for the city anymore. And he said, you're the cricket lady. And I said, go ahead, write the ticket, but if you can do it fast, I'm really running late for a sales meeting, and I'm so sorry. And I don't even care what you give it to me for. He said, lady, I won $5,000 on that story because we put a pool in together on who has the best story, and nobody believed me. And I was like, I'm serious. She looked like a mini Lucille Ball, and she was there telling me this whole story. And so he let me go.
Oh my God.
And I made it to tell story. And I slid the paper underneath the door at the sales meeting and said, and now the rest of the story. So it was fun. But I think you have to know where your priorities are first, right? And know where there's a boundary, where the boundary is that you say, this is not flexible. I'll be flexible everywhere else, but this one's not flexible.
Oh my goodness. Okay, that a mini Lucille Ball. You're like, could I have a better compliment, please? Like that is so good. That is, I
So
love
cool.
that so much. You know, something that all three of you have said in slightly different ways is about this this ask, this somewhat, maybe it's reluctant or maybe it's not, and you've got a confidence about it and it blows other people away, but there is a confidence that needs to happen before we go forward with asking. And we've read lots of books inside this community, in particular, Women Don't Ask. We talked about that one last year. And the same two women who wrote that book also wrote a book called Ask for It. And now the term ask for it usually is related to something negative when it comes to women, like she's asking for it. However, in this book, they really dig into some of the reasons that and where they're connected to as to why we don't, or when that starts to happen. And so one of the stories that Sarah tells in the book is about how when she had small children, she would hire babysitters, and because she had boys, she was always looking for boy babysitters, right? So young men to come and babysit her kids. And how whenever she would hire a boy to be a babysitter, she would say, "What do you charge?" And he would say, "I charge $10 an hour or $12 an hour." And she would hire them. And every single time she would hire a girl babysitter, she would say, "What do you charge?" And the girl's response was,
What do you pay?
"What do you think is fair?"
Mm-hmm.
She was like, it was blowing my mind. She's like, and this is before she even started writing the books, right? I mean, this is like decades before, but these stories start to pop up. And so she started to do research on why is it that teenage girls say whatever you think is fair, and the boys are like, hell, this is how much I'm worth.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they started tracking it back to actually from birth, like day one, little girls are perceived as more delicate and less coordinated and less alert and in needing of more like nurturing and holding when they're crying. But the boy babies appear more coordinated, they less fragile, they don't comfort them in the same way. And that leads right into kind of when they first start going to school, and the boys will raise their hand whether they know the answer or not. The little girls won't, even if they know the answer, because they've been taught to wait to be recognized or to be asked to share their minds. And we've seen this in a lot of stats in real estate. And you saw likely the post that I did on the woman group about the research that CAR did. So the California Association of Realtors did a survey, and they found that men and women doing the same amount of production, so 4 sales a year, men are making 60,000 and women are making 50,000 doing the same amount. So in this industry, we talk about it's male designed, female dominated, and that women do really well in real estate. However, we're still making $10,000 a year less than our male counterparts. Now, this is on average, it's not everyone, right? As leaders, all three of you hire and work with other people who sell things or are nurturing other leaders. When you notice that the men in your organization are applying for leadership roles more or are making more than the women in your organization, what do you do? Like, what is some practical advice for the leaders who are watching today to say, you know what, I'm seeing that in my organization. What's first? Tina, let's start with you.
Sure. I am a teacher. I love teaching my agents, and I feel like what we need to really focus on is not only leading by example, but building up our women and our young girls. We truly, everything you just said resonates so tremendously with me as far as from little girls. I was a babysitter, and I can't tell you how many times I said that very exact same thing. I don't know. What do you think is fair? And I see it in my agents too, that difference between male agents being able to negotiate for their commission and negotiate for themselves strongly, and the female agents being scared to negotiate or being scared to really push for and ask for what they're worth. So I really try to, I teach several classes in my brokerage to help them with building their confidence by increasing their skill levels. So if I can teach them scripts and what to say and how to counter those objections and how to negotiate and ask for what they're worth and really hold to their value, I notice that, and they come back and they're so empowered because they win these negotiations in commissions, and they're so excited when they do. And teaching them things like visualization. Tami talks about that to us all the time, and visualizing how you want that conversation to go and how you see that conversation playing out and see yourself winning that negotiation really helps them with that confidence level and talking through it when it actually comes about and actually helps. So I really see my female agents thrive when they're taught the skills and they feel more confident in the scripts for negotiating for their value.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And I really want to put a pin in something that you said, that it's a skill, right? And for so many of us, we've not actually learned it. We've actually learned the exact opposite. So for a lot of women, it's unlearning those scripts in our mind of what do you think is fair, or that because we're friends, I'm going to do it for less.
Yep.
And flip it and actually know what to say, right? Like, what do we say when our buyers or our sellers ask us how much this is going to cost me, right? Because it's not always about dollars, right, ladies? Right? Like, we don't actually get paid by buyers, but we do exchange loyalty.
Yeah.
Right. We exchange honor and respect of each other's times and stuff. So having those scripts, which are they have a bad rep. Weird.
Yeah.
It's so weird what a bad reputation they have. Tami, how about you? I know that you are all about education as well. So when you see though that you've got, now let me back up. There are so many women in leadership at Exit. I mean, it's mind blowing how many women are in leadership. And you have
13
said
of the
this.
top executives.
Yeah, you said it many times that you hire the skills and the attitude and the best person for the job. So it's not like you're like, hey, I only hire ladies. I want to be very clear about that. But but something you're doing is attracting women to leadership. So what is your advice for what do you do around when you see more men making more money or doing the things?
I think that people learn through stories, and you have to share the stories, like Tina having people come back into her office, then sharing that story with everybody else in her office. Look, she tried it, she did it, it worked, it succeeded. For the people in leadership in our company, out of the top 19 leaders, 13 are female. And we found the best person for the job, but we also went out after them and told them that this is available. And so we were ultra proactive of, you're already doing this job. You deserve this job. Help me understand why you didn't ask, right? For some of the people rose their hand, and some people didn't ask, but we asked them. And I think that all of us should educate the next generations down. I mentioned this, I think, even to you before, Deborah, but over the last year, I've spoken to about 1,000 Girl Scouts, and doing Girl Scout meetings and having them be their own CEO, right? They're the CEO of selling the Girl Scout cookies, or the CEO of their own life. And I've asked them, out of all of these kids, and it's been 1,000 plus, how many of you have met a female CEO? And not one single hand's been raised, not ever. And so I think we need to give them exposure at a younger age so that they can see, and not that everybody wants to be a CEO. It doesn't matter what that thing is you want to be. I was raised in a generation that everybody was either a secretary, a waitress, or a maker, right? I mean, it was like, or you could even dream of being a flight attendant, so that you could be a stewardess in the air, a waitress in the air. But it was not, a lot of those other options weren't put in front of anybody. And I think that There are some people that are really strong-willed and focused in that direction, but for most people, they really need to have the exposure to see, okay, I can see someone that's like myself, and so I want to jump into that. So I think we need to share stories as much as possible. We need to mentor. At our company, we keep mentoring the next generation and the next generation to find out what their skill sets are. And we do everything from personality profiles to asking them really, there's a great book called The Dream Manager, but what their dreams are and what they really would like to see in their lifetime. And we really push them to seriously dream. And then when they come into that role, they own it. And that's what you want, is for them to be in a role that they really own it, so that other people can see that and they want to be like that. They want to be like that too. They want to have those opportunities too. So, and Tina's right. I always talk about visualization. It doesn't matter if I'm going to go into a fight, I'm going into a ring, or if I'm going to negotiate. I always close my eyes and picture how I want that conversation to go, or how I want that person to feel. And I think that that really does help you to boost your confidence, because you can actually picture it happening, right? You just put a movie in your own mind and you can picture it happening for when you go out and you do ask.
That's so good. Well, did any of you ladies see that the viral meme that was going around, the woman who is a founder, and she had like the female founder above her head, and she had the female word crossed out? Did any of you catch that? It went crazy on LinkedIn. And, you know, she was like, I dropped the female, I'm just a founder. And I was like, you know, we're not there yet, lady. We're simply not there yet. Like, I get it. I feel you. I get it. However, the word female, this beautiful divine gender that we are trying to raise up, has got some catching up to do, right? And I love the story about the Girl Scouts, Tami, because it's such a great example of, you're a beacon, right? You are a beacon for those young girls, because they can see themselves in you. It's the Hillary effect. It's the Kamala effect. It's the women, when we see others doing jobs we've never seen ourselves in before, we can, you know, there's power in that, but there's also power in being able to find each other. And this is where I think, like, the hashtags like lady boss or boss babes or whatever, that don't necessarily speak to me, but they are magnets for women who do need those groups, who do need to find the confidence and comfort and sacred spaces where they can become together. Honestly, Woman Up is that, right? It's a place that tells women, at any stage of your career, as you're rising in your career, this is a place for you to come and have those conversations. And I think that I'm hearing from both of you so far that it really is about helping each other, right? Giving each other the advice and the education. How about you, Sharon? When you are seeing those things happening inside your organization, what do you do?
So for me, is visualization, right? Because growing up, I didn't see a lot of women in power, okay? We were taught in our culture, being Jamaican, that women were supposed to be subservient, okay? We served them. They were the boss, and we did all the secondary jobs and everything in between, and made sure that they were taken care of. Well, for me, it's totally different, because I want my daughter to look and say, okay, I can do this. Okay. There's nothing on earth that I can't do. I don't want her to be limited to say, because I'm a female, I can't do that. The Band-Aid off of that. The ceiling is, she's limitless. She could do whatever she wants to do. When I see a Kamala, a Michelle Obama, you know, a Hillary, a Tami as my CEO, and things like that, you know, I know that I can do anything that God placed me on this earth to do. In our brokerage, we have about 30 agents, and growing, as Tina said, and growing. And out of the 30, only 5 are men, right? We have 25 badass females around here. And they're, you know, and at first it was like, okay, Michelle and I are 2 females, and we're pretty alpha. We're not docile. So we're not going going to be able to attract other, females with that, because we have a tendency, ladies, keep it real. We have a tendency of not wanting to be around strong-headed females, right? But I think that if we set examples, be that light in our community, be that person to show them we can do it, okay? We are building each other up. We're not tearing each other down. We're supporting each other. Not because you're not with EXIT or you're not with this brand doesn't mean that I don't cheer for you. I am going to cheer for all the females that are out there leading the way and, blazing the path and making sure that we are represented well. Because a lot of men, as you said, they go in leadership. They don't turn around and say, let me go and pick a female. No, they do not. It's a good old boys club. So we have to advocate for each other and we have to help each other, because at the end of the day, they're not going to turn around and give us the position. So,
unless we're asking for it, right?
Yes,
here's the biggest thing that we found in that research is that, a lot of the conversations around CEO or actually V level up, ladies, those conversations about who's a fit happen at the board table. Mm-hmm. And we are very underrepresented at the board level still to this day. We're working on it. We are working on it. However, if we know that that's where the conversations are happening, we know that our voices aren't being heard. And the conversations we've been having for decades around that table, if it were ours, we would be doing the same thing. We promote who we know until people boldly raise their hand and say, that is interesting to me. I want to know more about that. I'm sure there are plenty, regardless of gender, that would be like, oh my gosh, you're asking for something like that. How dare you? But most people are like, all right, props, snaps in the cups for stepping up for yourself. And so I really want to dig into the, as we get closer to the end of our chat here, around this idea of conflict and fear and trepidation around asking for what we want, because that again is the root of women not asking or not, stepping out and stepping out for themselves, right? Confidently asking for things. So how have you learned to kind of set aside that fear of conflict or even the fear of no? Right? How have you learned how to do that? I'd love to discuss that. So Sharon, do you want to start with that one?
Sure. To be quite honest with you, I used to be afraid to ask for what I want, to be honest, if I'm going to be transparent, but I grew out of that. Okay. And I'm like, no, I'm tired of sitting in the corner and I'm tired of doing, because you're the one that's doing the work, right? They want you, the males, they want you to do all the work to make them look good, but at the end of the day, they don't want you to lead. And I'm not doing that anymore. And I'm over it. And
what do you think that is from, Sharon, though? Is it from owning your own company? Is it the combination of boyfriend, you will not be my boyfriend any longer, you will be my husband on XYZ date, and he said yes, and then you said I'm going to do this, and somebody else said yes? Was it the culmination of a lot of yeses, or what?
It's a combination of everything, but again, right, you had to get the courage. You had to get that, you had to work that up, right, to get into your spirit to say, okay, I deserve more, I'm worth more, so therefore I'm going after that God placed me on this earth to get, okay? And he designed my path. God already knew what we were going to be the day that he put us all together. So I had to get the courage up to say, okay, I'm worth that. Someone else is not going to determine what my value is. Mm. So, and I think that a lot of time, us as women, we're waiting for someone else to determine what we're worth. Of stepping up and say, no, I can get this. Yes, I deserve to own the company. Yes, I deserve to lead this. Yes, I deserve to be at the table instead of waiting for someone to put you there. Okay. Share and pull up and make sure that you have enough, though, that when you pull up, that you can sit there and stay there.
Yes. Well, okay. First of all, I have to recognize, feel like we just went to church, Sharon.
Thank you.
So I love that.
Yeah.
You know, but there's a lot in what you are saying on so many levels, right? On the human to human level, right? This is it really comes down to getting to that point in our lives where we feel worthy.
Yes,
Where
that
we
you're
truly feel
enough. You don't need someone else to validate you, that
Mhm.
you're enough. Everything else that you've got going on, you are enough.
Yes. Yes. And I think
Don't think you get
intrinsically
that.
that it sounds really great, but I think a lot of women have been raised in the wait to be asked or told you're worthy. Like wait to be asked to go on the playground with your friends, wait to be asked on a date by a boy, wait to be asked to go to the prom by a boy. Like now that is shifting. I get it. There are the generations coming up behind us. There is different parenting and there's just enlightened conversation happening. However, if they turn on the TV or watch a movie that was made start from today backwards, that's the conversation they're seeing. That is what's being represented, is the girl pining away on her pink bedspread, waiting for the boy to call her and ask her to the prom, right? And so I would love to hear from you, Tina, like where do you feel like you're mastering or on your path to mastering that, just cracking that shell?
Sure. I mean, I think for me, this one is still a big work in progress. That the mastering the art of conflict. I don't like conflict. I don't know that any of us really like conflict, except for Tami. She can battle her way out of it, but so this is definitely more of a work in progress for me. I've learned to try and really avoid that knee-jerk reaction and take time. So for me, it's more of a absorbing, processing, and when conflict arises or things arise that I need and I should be asking for, or so just take a step back, and I kind of really dissect and analyze and take a breath as opposed to the knee-jerk reaction. But I do also still find myself backing down from a lot of things that I would like or that I want to ask for, mainly because of that fear of conflict. I don't want to ruffle feathers. I don't want to upset a friend, a colleague. And so those are things that I'm really trying to work through. And I take more of the approach of, I guess, grace, and really trying to approach each situation with grace. And how would I want my daughter to see me handle this situation? And how would I want to see her handle a similar situation? And so just like Sharon had said, I have those eyes on me too. And she's 14 and she's growing up. And I really want her to learn as she goes into high school how to handle these different situations that she's going to be presented with grace, but also with strength. And so that's kind of how I try to approach processing and moving through conflict, and making sure that I'm asking for what I feel like I deserve.
That's so beautiful. I interviewed a woman this morning on my podcast. Her name is Louisa Garrett. She runs an organization called Make Kind Loud. And we were talking about, it was born from the fact that she realized that she was so frustrated with all of the politics and the negativity and all the stuff in all of the media happening. And when she looked at herself, she was like, yeah, I'm kind of part of that, because she was living in a sarcastic state. And so she started to shift her sarcasm into kindness. And what triggers that inside these conversations, I think, Tina, is, and what you so beautifully said is, if our teens were to deal with or to feel the way we feel when we're getting ready to ask for what we want, what advice would we be giving them? Mm-hmm. Would we eye roll at them and go, oh, you're totally worthy. Like, you're worthy. Of course. Right. Of course we would. It is that, again, it's easier to do it on the outside than it is on the inside until you recognize it. So I think that's so beautiful. I love that. Tami, how about you? How do you master the art of, you have done this, and we've had lots of conversations about conflict and confrontation, and fill us with wisdom.
Well, first, I think because you went back to the boardroom, one of the things that's really important for everybody on this to hear is that the CEO of Goldman Sachs will not back a company and will not invest in a company unless there's at least 2 women on their board. And not even, this is the key, not even because he's so focused on diversity, but because they actually make more money. And so when you can see that women can be so multifocal and that they can see every section of an equation where it's usually a lot more tunnel vision male-wise, then it really does make sense. There needs to be diversity at every table so that we have a perspective for everyone if we're really going to win. But for me, I always do a couple of things. Number one, I remind myself it's just a conversation, because I think we can get ourselves really worked up into something. And oh my God, this is going to be a terrible confrontation, and I'm going to have to tell them something awful or whatever the circumstances are. And I think that when you really get to know them and do your homework as much on the person or as you do on the situation. So if you have to fire somebody, if you have to negotiate for a contract, whatever it is, we have, and I witnessed it with a lot of women. So I was selling Rhode Island, the rights to Rhode Island. This was a ways back with EXIT, and I was selling the rights to Rhode Island, and I got to my office and my assistant said, "I'm really sorry about Rhode Island." And then Michelle, who helps with technology, said, "I'm really sorry about Rhode Island." And then our chief operating officer sent me a text message and said, "I'm really sorry about Rhode Island." And I'm like, "What are you guys talking about? Rhode Island's closing." And they said, "You're good, but you're not that good. There's 18 pages of concerns here," because I won't let them say conflict or objection. So there's 18 pages of concerns here. And I said, "He's closing." And so I picked up the phone. I said, "Sean, why don't you come into my office? I understand you have a couple concerns." And he had a killer attorney. I mean, you got to understand, Rhode Island had a governor that served part of his time while he was in jail. So these guys are very litigious. It's a very litigious state. But
Oh my God.
I read through all the concerns and realized that I know him, and I know him well enough that I knew that his biggest concern that he wanted to make sure his family was taken care of. And there wasn't anything in the documents if he passed away that this would go to his wife and that somebody would help him to help her to transfer it or to take control of it. And I knew that that would be the concern for him because of how much he valued. He's an Irish immigrant, very self-made, and I just knew that that was really where the priority was. But he went to an attorney, and the attorney had everything: buy him dinner every night at regional owner training, pay for his flight to Toronto, just going through this whole crazy stuff. So we came in and sat down, and I'm like, "Sean, seriously, buy you dinner every night?" And he's like, "You won't even buy me one, Tami?" And I said, "All right, a Wendy burger." And I just started going down the list, going through the whole entire checklist, and we got it all the way down to we'll just get it down to one concern and make humor out of it. But I took it down to one concern, and that was, I said, "I'll have something drawn up before the day is out that your family is taken care of. And if we can do that, are we all set?" And he's looking at it and he's like, "Except for, can you call my attorney? Because I'm afraid to have the conversation with him now." And so I called the attorney, and, but what surprised me more than anything, it's a game for me now because it's mental chess and you just keep working. And I always try and make it a win-win on both sides. It doesn't matter what the circumstances are. Win-lose is never a win. When you're younger, you want to win at everything. It's really important to try and make it a win on both sides. So if you really know what's important to another person and you can be respectful of that and give them dignity, regardless of whether they're male, female, or what the circumstances are. But what stunned me more than anything about that transaction was that these 3 women that are surrounded by me, I'm like, what have I done that they're sitting there saying this isn't going to happen? Right? What do they need to see to know that this is doable? And so I brought them all in and, showed them exactly what transpired and what I did for homework behind the scenes. But I think a lot of times you can share other stories with them to have it happen. But do as much homework on the people as you do. Preparation will save you 1,000 minutes of grief. And so the more prepared you are, the more confident you are. When I go into the ring to fight, I actually close my eyes and visualize how it's going to go. And it comes out pretty close. And it's always on just really knowing what you want. And we do have to be fair, right? But that doesn't mean that we have to back down. And a conflict doesn't mean that we're going to be fighting and we're going to be arguing. When I fire somebody, and that happens from time to time, I will tell them, I care enough about you to have this conversation, right? And so you can soften things with the right words that work to say, you know, I care enough about you. It's really important. I don't want you to, even in a sale, right? I don't want you to be disappointed in this process. It's really important for you to understand what you're facing out there right now. And I think the more we do that, very direct, it's not, I think the problem with conflict is we think it's us against them or them against us. And so then our heart races and we think that it's going to be this conflict and we're going to be in some sort of a fight. Most people don't like to be in that circumstance. My fantasy is to get in a bar and brawl, so it wouldn't be me. But I think that whole thing of just, I think that whole thing of just understanding that it's not about you or them, it's about the circumstances. And if we can try and work it out as smoothly as possible and everybody can walk away with dignity, it's well done. So when you prepare that and then you go in and the more times you experience it, you go, hey, that worked, you know, and the more times you experience it, the more you realize, okay, I'm just going to keep fine tuning these skills, this skill set.
Yes, that's so good. I just want to revisit. Did you say you fantasize about being in a barroom brawl?
I did.
Good.
Yes.
This is hilarious. This is a bucket list. Okay, like we could just stop right there. However, what I hear you saying over and over again is it's a conversation. It's two humans sitting down to find a solution, right, to what the concerns that are in front of us. And, you know, I remember when I used to do the recruiting and retention for the brokerage that I worked for back in my corporate days, that was always such an interesting part of recruiting and retention, is having those conversations with people and finding out like what is their need. This isn't zero sum. There's all sorts of ways that we can honor each other. It's not always about money. It's also about freedom and flexibility and all sorts of other things. And so really getting to know, and I love that it brought you knew, because of the homework that you'd done, of where you really thought this guy was going to come out at the end, right? And that's so good. Okay, so ladies, we are at the end of our conversation. So let's do a rapid round the room final words of wisdom that you want to share with everyone today. Sharon, let's start with you. What is on your heart to speak into the Woman Up community?
As Tami said, make sure that it's win-win at all times, okay? And just remember that leadership is not about being the best. Leadership is about making someone else better. And at the end of the day, ladies, they have a phrase that says, you know, you should always fix another lady's crown.
Yes.
Making sure that it's not crooked. Don't ever stand there and talk about your sister. You always make sure that your sister is fantastic when they're walking through the door, because the reflection, whatever she looks like, is a reflection on you, because you're walking there together, arm in arm. So make sure that you are your sister's keeper, and you guys just love on each other and give each other some grace, and making sure that at the end of the day, we just treat each other with respect.
So beautiful. I love that. Tina, how about you? What's your last words of wisdom?
Well, Sharon took mine, so I got nothing. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Sharon, no, I agree. I absolutely agree. But what I would like to kind of leave with is we need, like Tami said, we need to lead by example. We need to be the example for our youth, for our girls, our young girls. I love Girls on the Run, the program. I love Girl Scouts. But we need to be out there participating and showing them what powerful women look like and what women in leadership look like, and that they too can and should strive for this. We need to change our vocabulary. I am so tired of hearing women in leadership being called bossy or too assertive or negative connotation adjectives. We need to start changing that vernacular so that we're encouraging our girls. I can't tell you how many times I get called intimidating because of, right? All of us, we've all been called it. And whether it's at home or at the office or whatever it is, but we shouldn't be like Sharon said, we should be supporting each other. We should be building each other up, but we need to teach our girls that it is okay to ask for what you want and to work for more. And when, you know, people would ask my daughter what she wants to do when she grows up, and she would talk about where she wants to work or what kind of job she would want to have. And I said, well, why don't you own the company? Instead of working for the company, why don't you own the company? So that's what I want us teaching our girls, right? It's the JFK quote, a rising tide lifts all boats. So if we can lead by example and show our youth what they can have and what they should have, I think that'll start to really make an impact.
Oh, I love that so much. I don't know if any of you have watched the movie Moxie yet on Netflix. Those of you who know me know that Moxie is a big part of my brand, but if you've not watched the movie Moxie, it's actually directed by Amy Poehler, who is she could be here sitting with us and having this conversation. Like, this is her lane too. And the whole story is about young women stepping up and into their power, and how that it's not dirty for women to want money, to want power, to want their voice heard, and that it can be perceived as like revolution and rebellion. And you know what? Who cares? Who cares what people think about it? Like, it's about us being brave and really speaking out. Okay, Tami, bring us home with
sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, bring us home with your wisdom.
The two things that I want to suggest, and I think this is important for everybody, is surround yourself with people that are positive, that literally are your cheering squad. If you have anybody that's really negative, and I don't care if they're in your family, in your business, don't surround yourself with them. You can't allow them into your space. You don't have to participate in every fight you're invited to. And so it's so important to make sure that you surround yourself with people that really lift you up. Also, that they lift you up even by pushing you out of your comfort zone, that they want you to be more. They see more in you, and they really want to push that. That side is really important, but the other side is important too. And that is surround yourself also with people that keep you grounded. And it's not just about not being too big for your britches so that you don't take all the other women along with you, which is incredibly important, but it's also somebody that says, look, you're working too hard right now. You've got to cut it out. You've got to take a break, or, you know, you've got to slow down. I was on in a speaking engagement for Chicago this week, Chicago Association of Realtors, and there was another CEO, and she, lovely woman, and she said the only 2 times that she's had a break in the last 10 years, she was hospitalized for exhaustion. And she was in the hospital getting IVs for exhaustion, and that's where her rest was. You need to know that you don't have to go over the top and be out of control all the time. It's good to have somebody that keeps you grounded and says, look, you need to take a weekend off. You need to take a break right now. You need to slow down. You need to back up and get some perspective on where you are, so that you know, sometimes, and here's my last sentence. Sometimes you need to be the sage on the stage, and sometimes you need to be the guide on the side.
Amen. So good. So much wisdom in there. So much wisdom. I think that we've heard such great advice from you ladies today, right? Step into your confidence, know what you want. I loved the question, Tami, of tell me why you didn't ask, right? Like, when you are filling positions and women aren't coming, and then they come to you afterwards and go, well, why didn't you ask me? Why didn't you hire me? Why didn't you pick me? It's reminding them to ask themselves why they didn't ask. That's so important. It's only a conversation. So powerful. The doing your homework. I do want to point to, and I'll drop a link in, Tami, when we had you on, I can't remember if it was last year or in 2019, but where you shared the story of when you did have to fire a whole lot of people, you had to let a lot of people go.
Yeah.
And the woman went on to a thriving career in another industry. I'm going to put the link to that conversation in there, because there's probably some people in here who will likely have to have those conversations this year with people. And there's so much power in finding examples, which we've all talked about today too, being an example. And for those of you who are listening live and who are catching the replay, being the example is important, but also having strong examples in your life. And so if you don't have strong mentors who can help you with this, these 3 amazing leaders right here are 3 great examples. Reach out to them, connect with them. We'll make sure to link to their profile pages, to their Instagrams, to all of their accounts so that you can reach out and connect with them. These women are servant-hearted leaders, and they're here for a reason, right? To help lift each one of you up. So ladies, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for all of the advice that you shared. We could talk for another couple hours. I'm sure we could all pour glasses of wine and take this right into Friday night.
Yeah.
However, like Tami says, family comes first. So I wish all of you a great weekend with your family and your loved ones. Hopefully, as Tam did share, right, we are taking time to rest and rejuvenate. I like to say, fill up your soul tank, right? It's really important. You are in control of that. So go enjoy yourselves this weekend, everyone. We will see you on the group and in all of the conversations to come in the future. Remember to mark your calendar for the first Wednesday in April. Leslie is coming back with a coffee and conversation with an amazing guest. And next Friday, we have Vanessa Bergmark, who has been on the stage a few times, coming in to share some stories around building wealth, financial management and awareness. And her story, if you've not heard it, is going to blow your mind. So make sure that you get next Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific time on your calendar. We'll see you here. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Love you, ladies.
Bye.
Thank you.